Hello again, Roy.RealEstate here with Coldwell Banker Legacy in San Angelo. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the new National Association of Realtors settlement on some lawsuit stuff. You may have read about it in the news, you may not have. Basically, one of the issues was they were sued. The National Association of Realtors and some brokerages were sued because the sellers thought they had been manipulated and forced to have to pay the buyer's agent commission. So first round of the lawsuit was lost, and then in the last couple of weeks the National Association of Realtors decided to settle with the people paying them a lot of money and agreeing to some rule changes. So just kind of wanted to hit that and kind of hit some high points of the thing. So one of the things that came out in it is that commissions, real estate commissions, are negotiable. Now, just like you can't go to Jim Bass and say, hey, I want to pay $20,000 for that brand new F-150 and expect to drive away with it, they're negotiable within limits. So, we have brokerage policies of what our normal ones are. We can make some exceptions in those at times, but generally, we pretty much have set policies. Different brokerages have different policies that they do, different levels of service that they may or may not provide, all those kind of things. So that's true and has always been true. One of the weird things about it has always been how the buyer's agent is paid. Back in the dark ages, 20, 30, 50 years ago, the seller was generally represented in a transaction by a realtor, but the buyer was not. So as you can imagine, if you have a transaction, the seller is represented by a professional representative and the buyer is not. Well, sometimes buyers got cheated a little bit. So they worked up the system, but it's kind of a weird system because generally the way it works is the seller will pay not only his agent, the listing agent, but he will also pay the buyer's agent because that's where the money is. The buyers, as a general rule, have a lot of hard time getting up enough money to make their down payment and all the costs, closing costs, all those kind of things anyway. So if they had to come up with out-of-pocket money to pay for their buyer's rep, it would be a lot more difficult for them to buy the houses. So that's kind of the way the system works and has always worked. And quite honestly, I believe it is the best for the buyer, the seller, and the agents on both sides. The system functions well the way it's designed, but it's weird because, again, the seller of the house is paying for the buyer's agent's work. So it's a little odd. So a couple of things that are going to change with the settlement that has been agreed to by the National Association of Realtors. One is we will no longer be able to say in our MLS what is being offered for the buyer's agent's commission. So today, if you list a house with me, we agree to an amount, and I put that in the MLS that we are going to pay, you are going to pay, if you're the seller, I'm not actually paying it, that you are going to pay the buyer's agent's commission of X percentage. Generally with ours, it's 3%, but that you are going to pay that so that when a buyer's agent brings someone to look at your house, that they know that that's how they're going to get paid. So they have an agreement with their buyer that the buyer will pay them, but the agreement generally in Texas says that they will try to get the money from the seller first. So that's the way that works. It functions very well. What will change come August 17th is that we will no longer be able to put that information in the MLS. So it complicates the process a little bit, but probably won't change things a lot. As long as the seller is still willing to pay the buyer's agent, we'll just have to communicate that outside the MLS. It'll be an extra step or two, maybe an extra paper or two, because we know we like paperwork in real estate. So we'll do that and it'll all work out. One of the other weird changes is that we are agreeing, the MLS rules will say that the buyer has to have signed a buyer's representation agreement before they see a house, any house, one house. Again, these are the parts of this settlement agreement. They're going to be MLS rules, whether I agree to them or not. Come August, they're going to be enforced, and we're going to have to do this. So it's going to be a little bit interesting because if you want to go look at one house, you haven't met me. We show up and look at the house. I'm going to have to ask you, required to ask you to sign this buyer's representation agreement. You don't know if you're going to want to work with me. So there's ways around it. We can make it for one day or something like that so that if we look at that house and you don't want to work with me, that you have a way out. Or we can do it just for that one property. So if you decide to buy that house, you're committed. If you don't, you're going to go off to somebody else. So it's going to be some pain stuff, but it's not going to work. It's going to be less smooth than our current process. Because currently, we generally try to get you to sign a buyer's rep agreement fairly early. but we don't automatically do it up front. A lot of times, well, let's go meet. You and I meet, we'll look at a couple of houses, and you get the feel of whether you want to work with me or not. And if you do, great, we'll sign the agreement and move forward. If you don't, then that's fine too. You can find someone else that may suit you better. So anyway, that's the highlights of the agreement, the things that's going to change. Hopefully, it won't end up being that huge an issue. It'll just be some more steps on the backside for the agents. And, most sellers will probably continue to offer that compensation because it just makes sense. It'll make it easier for them to sell their house. So, got any questions about it, give me a call, Roy.RealEstate, 325-268-0775. Thank you.